Get a drum.
Freedom is very fragile. It's more fragile when we don't know the truth. You're about to be part of FramersView, where truth is the foundation of every day's program. Join us live every weekday right here on Rumble at 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, here's Neil Frame on FramersView.
We're making it past to the end of the week. Can you believe it? Welcome to FramersView. Thank you for being here. It's been an interesting week. Elections going on, all kinds of stuff. I tried to find a patriotic shirt. I couldn't really. Oh, wait a minute. I see that on my. Oh, yeah, I do. I'm so proud to be an American. You know, anybody that's gone past the U.S. borders, the simplest part would be Mexico and Canada. Anybody that's gone overseas, anybody that's been in China, in Japan, in any of the Asian nations, India, and you recognize what we have here, what we're celebrating tomorrow, what we've really been celebrating for weeks now, but going to come to the pinnacle of celebration tomorrow. And it's amazing that this happened. We're going to talk about that today, how it happened and what are the chances of it happening again. Two, I think, pretty fair questions. More importantly, everything that we've accomplished, there's people trying to kill it. And I don't want to throw the Debbie Downer on it, but we have a big job to do from July the 3rd, 2026, to get to the November election in 26, and then get the election handled in 28, to keep those who hate America from getting control of America, to destroy America, to not care about America, and to thwart anything that's good away. We have to stop it. And I don't think it's an unreasonable challenge. I think that you guys can talk to your friends, the people that you know are not going to vote Republican, and just say, before you do that, just take 1 hour and watch Fox News, watch Newsmax, go to some of the websites that are out there, even stuff like News Nation. Look at what is really happening instead of what people are claiming. And I think you'll see that there's a very good piece of evidence that we have a good thing here, a very good thing. Is it perfect? No. Is it ever going to be? No. To create a more perfect union is an ongoing process. That's what the founding fathers understood. There's no way. They knew, number one, that in 1776, they knew there were centuries before them. They knew what had happened in England. They knew before it was a united kingdom that you had all of these little fragments out there, and they were trying to bring that together to make it, the union that it was until Brexit happened, but that separated a little bit. But there was big fracture between Scotland and Ireland and England, and trying to bring that together, and then having a united union with all of the other countries was pretty hard and wasn't as successful as what the United States is. The difference is that all of those countries in Europe They have different languages. They have different thoughts. They have different beliefs. They have many different things. Still do. But the European Union is there, and England is there, and there's the United States. And we think about these people that created this country, the people that were in the British colonies. It wasn't the U.S. colonies at first. George Washington was in Virginia under the British rule. And there's a bunch of guys that got together and had a beer and said, or whiskey, we talked about that yesterday, and they said, we got to fix this. We don't want this to continue in our little place here because there's a better possibility. There's a better chance. And honestly, is very much like anything of any kind of a person that says, I want to start this company because I have this idea. I have this product. I have this solution to a problem. And I want to be able to be putting that out to the market. Well, that's what the founding fathers did, but they did it in a case of kind of bedlam of these little colonies and people fighting against a lot of things, partially being the United Kingdom. And they did not what was happening in what was then not the United States, but today is the United States. They didn't want that to get any bigger with any other ideas. And so what did they do? They kept pushing them down and pushing them down. That's the Revolutionary War. But we'll talk about that. I've got some patriotism at the beginning with a little fun. Could we do this today? Could we create something like America today? And I grokked that. It was interesting. And we'll talk about that. But could it possibly even happen with the pushback that goes on? And there was pushback during the founding fathers' creation of this country and doing this Declaration of Independence and doing their little amendments at the beginning to start this. And how brilliant were they? How close were they to having the perfect document 250 years later? Is it perfect? No. Will there be amendments? I don't know. As split as we are, unlikely, very unlikely, when you know that you have to have more than just a predominant vote. You have to have a mass vote to be able to make an amendment. So can it happen? I don't know. Mamdani, he's pushing his deal, and he's leading his crowd. There's no question about that. He's going to lead his crowd and get anybody that wants to stop him he will stop anybody that tries to stop him. And now we're getting more and more socialists around the country. Can we stop that? Can we save it? I think we can. An Illinois rep got into it with Scott Bessent. Didn't work out very well. Just didn't do it. Lower taxes make higher revenue. People don't believe it. I'm going to show you that today. Sunny Hostin, the Speaker of Idiocy from The View, her talking about she is the biggest racist of the bunch. And she thinks we're racists. We'll do that. Scott Jennings and his pride, big deal. The whole process of having citizenship and then in the middle of it having tourism, citizenship, and the Supreme Court not supporting cutting that down. We have some solutions to that, possibly. Then some Obama stuff, and in the end, I've got a black man that's going to dress down CNN, and it's impressive. And where we're losing the socialist side, the black people the Mexican people are starting to realize, you know what? We've got jobs. We're getting paid more money. We've got a lot of things going on for us. And who's doing that? It's not the Democrats. And they know that. That's kind of the scary part. They know it, but they don't want to admit it. But they will. They will. So, man, I'll tell you what, the haters, the people that can't stand it, it's going to be interesting tomorrow. First of all, will we have some lunatic do something? I pray to God that doesn't happen. More importantly, though, what'll happen? Will the reflecting pond and everything that's happening in DC, will it be highly populated by people that care about America? I think it's a very strong possibility. I saw a lot more people on Fox News where they were at the 250 event at the state fair, the all-state fair. We'll see. Tomorrow's going to be an interesting day. So first thing I want to do is we caught, there's a video caught an eagle with a fox. Watch this.
Get a drill.
No, that's, you don't want to watch it. You already saw that, and it was the opening to the show, and you don't need to see that. Why don't we try this?
You're just hanging out. Dutch Harbor. Look at this shit. The eagle and the fox.
Come on, take Hurry up. Somebody do something. Yeah, get a picture.
I got a video right now.
Dude? Two predators just chilling. They're like homies.
I got them.
They're like, I got everything in the air. You got everything on the ground with the homies. Yeah.
Video's going on. They have to be friends. That eagle to eat that fox.
Yeah. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
That's gonna get as many hits as a donkey.
Wow. Is that amazing? That is truly amazing seeing that. But what's interesting was we thought we heard something in the background. So did some audio to pick up. We found out that the eagle and the fox were talking to each other. I mean, we think that they don't talk. They do. And this is an example of adversaries working things out. Watch this. This is the audio from the fox and the eagle there on that picnic table. Watch this.
You're just hanging out.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've been seeing the mice down here, and I think you can help me out, and we can be partners. What do you say?
Help you? And then you eat me for lunch.
No, you see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go way up into the sky, and I'm going to look down, and I'll see the mice, and I'll come down, and I'll hit the mouse, and then you come over, and you grab them, and you keep them in a place, and I'll go back up and get another one. What do you say?
Well, we can give it a try.
Yeah, and then after we get done eating, we can just go up in a high spot and watch the fireworks. What do you say?
That's gonna get as many hits as a donkey.
That's amazing. See how they can work together? How did we pick up that audio? That's something else. Wow. So the bald eagle, the bird of America. And by the way, if you've never seen an eagle close up, when I say close up, within a few hundred feet, and realize how massive this bird is, it's unbelievable. And then you realize not only are they huge, they can hunt like virtually nothing else can. I mean, there's the violence of bears hunting and of mountain lions and all that kind of thing. But to see what an eagle can do is amazing, and that's why it's America's bird. The bald eagle. We have them here. And the other thing you want to see, if you ever notice in a tree, or even sometimes you'll see it on top of a power line where they've got one of those T-shaped power lines, and there'll be this great big round thing up there. Well, that's their nest. And their nest is like 4, 5, 6 feet. They're massive. They're the greatest example of survival in America from the beginning of America. Probably, maybe, who knows when eagles began? Probably before we had global warming. I'm just guessing. So I asked a question. I said, what are the chances? I asked Grok, my good friend Grok. I said, what are the chances that you could start America or something like America again? And there were some caveats that they talk about. There's no land and they try different things. But look at this. So considering our current times, what are the chances that a country could start up again like our founders did? She said, pretty slim, like under 5% for something that actually sticks and gets recognized as a sovereign nation. The world's fully carved up now, no empty land like the founders had. Any attempt to claim territory, even at sea or in disputed spots, runs into existing countries that won't just let you go. International law requires a permanent population, defined territory, effective government, and the ability to deal with other states. Plus, crucially, recognition from others. Recognition from others. New countries since the 1990s mostly came from big collapses, like the Soviet Union or Yugoslavia splitting up, or messy wars, not clean starts, like 1776. Sea trending micronations have been tried for years. A few floating homes exist, which is crazy, but none have become a real sovereign state. Powerful neighbors shut them down fast. The closest modern idea is Bazishevin's network state. Start with a tight online community, crowdfund land or floating spots, and grow until you're big enough to earn diplomatic nods. It's the smartest path anyone proposed, but it's still early days with experiments, not successes. This is just giving you an idea how hard it was. Bottom line, the founders pulled off a very different world with weaker powers and open frontiers. Today, you'd need massive coordination, money, big money, and luck just to avoid getting crushed or ignored. Possible in theory, but the odds are steep. I want to go back to one thing that you want to think about. Powerful neighbors shut them down fast. That's a big part of it. There's not really a way to do it today. And this is part of the amazing part about America. We came here, England came here, when there was nothing but indigenous Indians. There had been some Spanish and different people had come here and they left because they didn't have the plan. They didn't have the people that were brilliant, like Washington and Jefferson. It's the possibilities, like the decision was made here. It's a 5% chance. I would suggest it's not even a 5% chance, because the likelihood of pulling that off, to be able to start a country today, to set up a monetary position, to be able to have some way to get other countries to trade with you. And what do you have to offer them? I mean, really, the Industrial Revolution hadn't occurred. It was basically everybody was just trying to make it themselves on their own. Farming and, all of that type of process and growth happened until the Industrial Revolution. And now, to be able to do it and have this, whatever little country you could think of, an island, and start your own country. But you have to have trade. You have to be able to sell things to other countries. You have to be able to buy things that you need for your country. You need to be able to take care of your people. And then there's the monetary aspect. You're not going to be able to tax people that aren't making money. So businesses have to start with no money. I mean, think about that. But no, this isn't a good idea. This isn't a good idea in any way, shape, or form. We have to stop this as socialists and communists. And I bring that up because of something Mom Donnie said today, I think it was, maybe it was yesterday. His socialist idea about economy and him not believing that the economy we have is good. He thinks this socialism, we're going to control everything, is a good idea. And is it a good idea? I would suggest no, because nobody's ever had a successful socialist communist country. They've all had to infuse capitalism, always, or they went away. So watch Mamdani here. This is kind of crazy.
Throughout this process, I've been reminded of the words of the Austrian economist, Friedrich Hayek. If socialists understood economics, they wouldn't be socialists. These past months have shown us anything. It is that socialists not only understand economics, just as well as the capitalists who came before, but that we can solve their years of mismanagement through an embrace of our principles.
Wow, think about that. So he really believes this is a nonsense idiot that's never really had a job except for being a rapper, that comes from a wealthy family who thinks everything just comes to you, somehow gets elected in a state with a city that is liberal from north to south, to all the Bronx, to all of the everything that goes on in that state is hate Trump right now, and liberal. And the biggest percentage of people are taking, not giving. You've got a lot of big money in there that brings a lot of money to this country, to that state, and to that city. Take that away by taxing him. See how that works out. This is the whole thing that I've talked about all along, that what the socialists want, they should be careful what they wish for, because what they wish for and what they think is all built on what they think but don't know. They look at European socialist countries and they say, that's what we need. But they're all trying to get away from socialism. Their medical programs are horrific. Go to Canada. It's a mess. Yeah, everybody gets free health care, kind of, sort of. But it's not good. And you wait forever. I mean, we're upset when we're sick and we can't get in for a week or 2 weeks. People that need surgery up there sometimes are waiting months to get surgery, or even to be seen, and then to get scheduled in for surgery. And do you have the best doctors and best surgeons? They've come to the U.S. because that is all controlled as far as what people get paid. So what does that do? That stops people from being successful, which causes services to drop, either not available or less than high quality solutions. I don't want to take you through a college class today. I don't think you want that. But I do want to show you things to make you think about how great tomorrow is and what it means. You know, we've got all kinds of holidays. We've got all kinds of celebrations. We've got all kinds of things that happen in this country every year. Religious events, Pride Month. We've got all these things that go on. But in the end, everybody wants to come here. Isn't that interesting? And the economy, you know, is it great right now? not great? Is it better than it was just a year and a half ago? Yeah. Does anybody on the left want to admit that? No. Why is that? Well, because if you admit it, you have nothing to talk about because you have no solutions left. Not solutions left as in anything else, but the lefts have nothing left. Now, here's an Illinois congressperson who loses his cool because Scott Bessent isn't going to let him keep saying the BS. Watch this.
Trump came into office, we were at 2.8%, and you can list off the most expensive groceries or that have had the biggest price increases.
I think you're just out of touch with what American families are facing.
No.
As my colleague noted, I'm reclaiming my time. Tariffs are a tax on American families. This is my time, Mr. Secretary. This is my time. I will speak and then
2.5%.
Higher grocery prices are taxes on American families. Higher gas and electricity prices
you
are
Democrats
taxes on
should
American
know.
families.
No wonder so many people are leaving Illinois. Why don't you come see me in South Carolina?
They're not leaving. They're coming to Illinois. Just a simple question, Mr. Secretary.
You're saying Illinois doesn't have net outbound migration?
That's perfect because we know that outward migration is happening in Illinois. It's happening in New York. It's happening in California. It's happening in Washington State. It's happening in Oregon State. People are getting the hell out because there's better places to go. It's happening here. We have a negative number going on in Colorado. Who would have ever thought that would happen? I mean, we haven't had a Republican governor in this state, well, since I think not when I moved here, but close to it, when Owens was the governor. And he wasn't that great, but at least it was a Republican. All of these states, when you have taxes that are just outrageous, when you have sales tax at 10%, when you have convoluted concepts and ideas of everything that's happening, and you've got the tent cities. I've told this story a couple of years ago when the baseball All-Star game was moved from Georgia to Colorado because there was somebody decided that Georgia was racist. And so it came to Colorado. And it was fascinating to see what happened. And I saw the perfect evidence of it. So at that time, Colorado was going more and more and more liberal, and Denver was off the charts liberal, blue, dark blue. And it was tent city everywhere. The 16th Street Mall was being taken over by tents and homeless people and drugs and just disgusting situations. So now the ball game is going to come here. And so now they got to shoo these people out. So they get rid of them, which is interesting because they never get rid of them any other time. So don't tell me you can't do it. But they got rid of them. So where did they go? So you got Denver sitting over here, this liberal blue city, and they're taking out the people from here. They have to go someplace, right? So you've got cities that are, it's like any other major city. You've got city after city after city that comes outside of that inside piece of Denver. So Lakewood, Colorado is west of Denver a fair amount. You go through a few other little cities before you get into Lakewood, but it's all one piece. And I was getting some tinting done for my car, window tinting. And I go there and I pulled in, and I've known the guy for a long time. And I said, do you know you've got tents up there behind your building? He says, yeah. He says the day the baseball game was announced it was coming here for the All-Star game, Denver started pushing all the people out of his city. And they're all coming here. I just had a fire in my dumpster. People are cutting down trees to make room for their tents and stuff, the limbs and cutting things off. And he says, it's a mess. There's all kinds of trash. People are pissing and pooping all over in my parking lot in the back. All it did is it moved to another area. Now, Lakewood is before you get to Golden. Now you've got it in Lakewood, and you've got it in Golden, and you've got it in the park and ride parking lots as you go up into the foothills. It just keeps going because of two things. One is they raise minimum wage. What does minimum wage raise do? And if you want to say to me that minimum wage being raised causes people to have more money, that's only one piece of it. What happens is a business looks at it and goes, we can't afford to make these payments. And so what do? They figure out a way to operate with less people. I would suggest there's probably 10 to 15% of every staff of every company that we don't need anyway. They've been there, they get a job, they do a good job, so you don't get rid of them, you keep paying them until all of a sudden it's like, I can't make this. So now people are out of work. That's not what America is about. It never has been and never should be. But as you raise the minimum wage, you lose jobs. That's why when you go into a McDonald's, you go into an Arby's, you go into many of the fast food restaurants, they're computerizing everything. You order your stuff on the computer in the building, or you drive through and just take it home. That's a big deal, and it's the electronic world is going to cause people to not have jobs in those places. But who causes that? Minimum wage should never even exist. Minimum wage is a market. People will pay more to have the better people. The wages will go up based on that. We shouldn't be pushing this. Doesn't make sense. And at the same time, taxes are another example of that. And I found an article on Unleashed Prosperity, which, by the way, you should definitely go to Unleashed Prosperity. Just Google it, find it. It's Stephen Moore, Art Laffer. There's a number of people that are part of that group, and they're brilliant people. Well, Art Laffer just put out a survey, not a survey, but a report. And I want to show you this. Lower taxes, more prosperity. Yesterday, we celebrated this week's two big birthdays, America's 250th and Big Beautiful Bill tax bill, with an event in Washington hosted by Unleashed Prosperity and our friends at the American First Policy Institute. One highlight of the day was when Art Laffer presented his stunning chart showing that nearly every increase in the top marginal tax rate has actually lowered the tax take from the top 1%. Now, remember, all of the people that are saying, including Mamdani and all those idiots, saying we've got to tax the rich, they're not paying enough. Well, guess what? Every increase in the top marginal tax rate, I'm reading it to you, has actually lowered the tax take, meaning taking it from them, from the top 1%. And why is that? Because when you take more tax from them, they have less money to be able to do R&D, and then they have to eliminate employees, and everything goes in the toilet. So here's a chart, and this chart's a little hard to see. So I want to be able to explain this to you. You can see the colors, the blue and the red. So here's the deal. When you look at this first chart, what this is, and it's clear, these are numbers that go from 1913 to 2023, which is the last time that we've had these kind of numbers that we could report. In this case, the blue is a top personal income tax. If you look at the bottom, the blue mark, top marginal PIT rate, that's a personal interest tax, individual tax. When that tax is up, the detrended average income went down. So when you look from 1928 going all the way to 1988, gee whiz, who was president then? Right? Their income, their average income went down dramatically, with the blue being up high, being the tax rate. Look further over in the 1993 all the way to 23, when we've got higher income, but we have a lower tax rate. Well, it's lower. I mean, when you look at the 70s and before, they kept raising taxes. There was a point where we had 80, 90% taxes. And what happens? It's pretty simple. The income goes down. We've had income go down and tax revenue going lower. And Trump's doing it big time. So that's just one piece of it. So the next piece of it, this may seem counterintuitive, but the facts don't lie. Higher income tax rates have three effects. First, they harm the economy. Second, they reduce the share of taxes paid by the rich, the ones you want to take money from. And the third, the incomes of the poor go down. So if the goal is to collect more federal revenue, good luck. So now, by the way, this is an important little piece of this whole thing. It harms the economy, and it reduces the share of taxes paid by the rich, and the poor income goes down. The reason it goes down is because they have to reduce the number of people. And when they did the idea that if you had, 35 employees or more, you had to pay more tax. Well, guess what? Every company that could do that would do. They'd keep the number down below that number. That's what they do. Yeah, because you're trying to keep your business alive. So the correlation is even easier if you take the tax rate line flipped over, which is how much tax income you keep at various tax rates. As Laffer puts it, Art Laffer, people work and invest to earn income, not to pay taxes. So this next chart shows something that's kind of fascinating, because they all are going in line now, because what this is the detrended average income, which is red, and the blue is the retention rate. And as the taxes go up, the rate of inflation goes up also. It's so obvious. Higher tax rates, lower tax rates. Art Laffer did the Laffer curve. He did that in the 80s when Reagan was in office. A brilliant man that was highly successful. And he put together what today is the success of America. And people don't want to admit it, but as long as we can keep pushing this thing on, as long as we can have a lower tax rate to generate more revenue, America will be okay. And then we have to get rid of fraud, and we have to get rid of corruption, which is what they're working on. So Sunny Hostin, one of my favorite idiots, she's being interviewed and she's talking about how America is failing and how everything's just bad. She's a total racist. Watch this.
You called America a failed experiment when you were on Friday.
Well, and I corrected myself as a failing.
Failing. That's what I was going to ask. So you still have hope.
I think, yeah, I have hope.
Mm-hmm.
But the notion that in 2026, my children have less civil rights.
Do you really believe that? Did she really say that? We'll continue.
That's horrible and terrifying.
And this guy isn't smart or is just playing the game along. That's horrible and terrifying. What? Come on, as Joe would say. Come on, man.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
And so any scientific experiment that you would take, because I've discussed this with my husband, because apparently he heard some of the blowback when I said it's a failing experiment. If an experiment is working, there aren't, this type of thing doesn't happen. You know, there are leaps forward, not backwards. So it is a failing experiment.
Read her words again carefully. Her son Gabriel is 22. Her daughter Paloma is 18. They were raised in a mansion behind iron gates, in a neighborhood Sunny herself has publicly described as all white on national television. She even admitted to walking into the local police station to personally introduce her son to officers, so he wouldn't be profiled while out jogging.
Is it possible for a country to lose itself so much that leaving it is justified? Yes, but we're not there yet, not by a long shot, and we don't need quitters. We need people who will stay and fix it. Maybe the problem isn't that America isn't worth defending. Maybe the problem is that lots of people today are entitled whiners who have no perspective and no idea how good they have it.
Oh, boy, is that ever true. Think about that. What a racist. She took her kid to the police station to introduce him to them so that he wouldn't be racially profiled. So that's just an assumption. That's just an assumption that there are a bunch of racists in her neighborhood. How old is she? I don't know. I should have looked that up. I know what racism is. I grew up in the 50s and 60s. I remember when there was a white water fountain and a black water fountain, as in white people and black people. I remember when black people actually sat on the back of the bus. You know, I remember when in school buses, the black kids sat in the back. There was no integration. The amount of hate for racism to the black people, KKK. I mean, they couldn't imagine anybody they hated more than black people. They hung them. They dragged him down the road, a gravel road, with him chained to the car. That was racism. For her to say that there's less civil rights for her kids than when she was young is just BS. It's a agenda to get people to hate America, to support socialism and communism. We've got the greatest country in the world. I keep saying it. But then you have that. But then you could have this. And this is Scott Jennings, trying to overtalk a bunch of liberals, explaining to them because, well, honestly, they can't figure it out or don't want to. I always have said, and I will continue to say, the whole idea that the press is getting it wrong isn't correct. The press doesn't want to get it right. They want to tell their story, not the story. They want to keep pushing the agenda. And Scott Jennings, which is a brave man, works at CNN as a conservative, a true conservative. Watch this.
Right. And even if we look at like what the United States is the greatest country in the world, 36% of people said that was true. 41% said it's one of, but only 23% of people said we're not one of the greatest countries.
And if you look at the splits on that by politics, what would you find?
I don't have that slide to
if
hand.
You looked at this, but if you looked at the splits on how people feel about America, the promise of America, if you look at whether they're proud of their country or not, Gallup has measured this. Republicans and conservatives are proud to be Americans, and it's Democrats and liberals who are not. And I think if you looked at the splits in that, you'd find
the opposite of where I wanted.
You'd find the lines on the graph going this way. And honestly, I think there's a political movement in this country right now built on telling people that America at its core, and it's not the Republican.
That's exactly right. And may I take you back to Abraham Lincoln, who was the guy that made the Republican Party. There was at one point a kind of a Republican Party, but a Republican Party by Abraham Lincoln, who was fighting in a civil war to stop slavery. A Republican Party that was the ones that pushed the civil rights in the 60s. Even though LBJ did it, he did it because he really didn't have any choice. The push was going and everybody was, I mean, that was a 99 to 1 ratio. And this idea that the Republicans are, the problem, maybe you ought to look in the mirror. Maybe you ought to think about what you're saying. Maybe the ones that don't know any better, that's watching all of this drivel that's happening with these people in the press, somebody, you as a viewer of this show, ought to say to them, just spend an hour watching Fox News, and you're going to hate it. But then after you watch it, go and research it. Write down, get your crayon and a piece of paper and write down the things that have been said that you think are just egregiously wrong. And then look it up. Go to Grok, go to ChatGPT, go to Copilot, whatever one you want to use, and look it up. And guess what? You're going to find out that the Republican Party is doing what they can for America. I got to tell my good friend, I'll call you back. So we've got two choices. We can let this happen with these socialists, or we can stop it. But the way to stop it is we have to have strong Republican candidates for these positions. What's going to happen in 26 is pretty much granted in stone right now. We've chiseled that out, and we got to hope. But the Democrats are helping us. That's the good news. The further left, the further crazy, the further stupid they get, the better. So, proud to be America. Here's what you need to understand. And I've said that the hate by other countries and the left and the liberals and the socialists, the hate is driven by and accelerated by the fact that Donald Trump is president, because this guy gets stuff done and they can't stand it. Can't stand it. So a few days ago, I think it was Tuesday, or maybe it was Wednesday, the Supreme Court decided they're going to just stick with the birthright citizenship concept. And everybody cheered on the left side. And I'm with the people that are saying this was the dumbest decision. They're looking at the Constitution. I get that. But probably we're going to have to do something legislative, maybe, kind of, sort of. But watch this about China. And I've got a few pieces on this to explain why this is so important. Watch this. This is about China sending people to the U.S. with women pregnant. You might remember the video I showed you yesterday with Tim Scott putting a bill out there that if you're coming into this country and you're pregnant, you'll be denied. Makes sense to me. But they've been sending Chinese mothers or pregnant people who will become mothers here to become U.S. citizens. Watch this.
It's sold as the ultimate U.S. tour package for wealthy pregnant women around the globe. It's called maternity tourism, and it's big business.
Right now, the annual advertised rate from $15,000 US to $50,000.
That's air, hotel, medical care, and the guarantee of an American-born baby. In Manhattan, a luxury hotel caters to wealthy Turkish women. In Tucson, rich Mexican women fly in on private jets. And in Los Angeles, affluent Chinese mothers are boarded in stately townhomes. They give birth, then recover till they're able to return home. In these townhouses, inspectors had been called out to investigate on 3 separate occasions. They found the townhouses had been converted into a multi-unit facility, and the kitchen was turned into a nursery for newborns. While it was shut down for multiple city code violations, there's nothing illegal about coming to the U.S. to have a baby.
So, this is a hot topic for the show.
Kat Chow is the host of a Chinese radio show. She says L.A. is a hub.
It's like insurance, isn't it? For your future. There you go, insurance. Well, I think parents, they really want to do everything for the kids.
Attorney Daniel Deng says while maternity tourism is controversial, it's a fast track to citizenship for the privileged.
They could enjoy the retirement benefit and also the best medical care that the government can offer.
Yeah, there you go. Retirement benefits, and saying the parents want the best for their kids. They're in China, and where is the best place for their kids? The U.S. And there's more to this. Nobody can prove this yet, but these wealthy Chinese are getting a kiss from the Chinese government to send these people over because they have the babies, and then they go back to China, and then they get indoctrinated, and then they get crazy Chinese concepts of government and people and lifestyle, and then eventually they move back here. And then what happens? Now they can vote. Now they can do they literally could become president of the United States because they're naturalized citizens. That's one piece of it. But every time that mother has a baby, or that child rather, that grows up and has a baby, they're citizens. But they weren't brought here with the hope of being part of America. This is the same thing that's happening in Mexico. The number of people that are coming across as pregnancy, it's just rising. It's because of this. Citizenship. How do we fix it? Well, you want it in your face? Here's the answer.
Part of the immigration debate is that you should do it the right way and you need to wait in line. These people who have money aren't waiting in line, are they?
No, they are not waiting in line. However, they did not violate any law. Okay. And again, if you really want to stop it, if U.S. government really want to stop this, you're going to make the law. You're going to change the law.
Chow says until that happens, the wealthy will continue to come, give birth, and return home with their precious cargo.
Yeah, here you go. And they're even saying right in your face, hey, change the law. It's not illegal. And the Supreme Court just let it happen. That's really disconcerting. That's really bad. So what can we do? Again, I said at the top of the show, there's the likelihood of being able to do a constitutional amendment. It's not even every state has to vote for it. Not every state, but I think it has to be like 30 some of the states have to vote for it. And you have to have 75% of the House and the Senate vote for it. It's virtually impossible. But then there's a little idea out there that Kavanaugh, Supreme Court Kavanaugh, has shared with people, and Eric Schmidt, a senator from, I think he's Missouri, has this.
Kavanaugh does provide an opening, sort of a legislative opening that I have legislation we're going to file that allows us to go through that door, which would effectively clarify the language to say not subject to a foreign power. That would get back to what the meaning was supposed to be that the court got wrong, which would give us the opportunity, I think, for potentially the decision to be overturned because Congress then, has clarified it. Of those, it wasn't that long ago that Harry Reid actually had legislation to deal with this issue. And so, are the Democrats going to be a party that learned their lesson from the Biden years where they were open borders and they let 15 to 20 million people here illegally. They don't believe in sovereignty, that we can tell people who can come and who can go. Is that who they are?
Boy, think about that. So will Schmidt get this through? Will this happen? Who knows? But between Tim Scott's bill that he's putting out to not allow any person to come into the United States that's pregnant until after they've had the baby, to be able to eliminate the citizenship birthright, it doesn't make any sense. It made sense in 1776. They were trying to build a country, and there were people coming here that were pregnant, and they said, we need to make these people citizens because they're moving in and they're building their little shack someplace to be able to build a life for themselves in the United States, or at that time, the colonies. And every time that happened, it created a better build of, America was, before it became the United States, it was the smallest country when the colonies got going. It was the smallest country in the world. Smallest country in the world. Because it was basically hanging on to the eastern border at, the Atlantic, and they couldn't get past the mountains. It didn't go past the mountains. And finally, they started expanding it. But there were like 2 million people, 2 or 3 million people total in the whole country when we had that flag with 13 stars. But gotta fix this. Birthright citizenship, legal ID, these are just obvious ideas or concepts that should be used. So the way people get elected today, an example would be Barack Obama. Here's this. CNN deep dives into the membership numbers at Mar-a-Lago to determine if the club has made a profit this year. Remember that this is how CNN deep dived into Obama during the presidency in 2015. Obama's best friend and chairman of the foundation buys the old Magnum PI property in Hawaii to tear down and rebuild. CNN fact checks the claims that the property is for Obama and tells us that it has nothing to do with Obama and is not for him. That's it. That's the extent of CNN's coverage of the purchase. Zero interest in what was actually happening with that deal. Just by comparison, it's insane. By the way, the Obamas were still complaining about how poor they were in 2015, but somehow they had mansion purchases in the works before they even had money. In 2022, Daily Mail and other outlets reported how Obama's friend was using loopholes, exceptions, and straight up bullying to get around the environmental regulations prohibiting seawall construction at the new Obama estate. For some reason, CNN had no interest in that story. Now, I show you this picture. Here he is playing golf. Here he is with his buddy looking at his property. And here is Obama looking at the camera guy going, I don't like this. I don't want anybody to see me here. Really? Now, down in the bottom left of that picture in the left square is some of the problems. I did it big for you so you could see it a little better. Exclusive trouble in paradise. Scowling Barack Obama inspects the construction of his new multi-million-dollar Hawaii mansion and controversial seawall, which his neighbors fear will erode the beach line. Now, this isn't made up. This is just part of those facts that are inconvenient truths, as our buddy Al Gore would say. So construction appears to be well underway on Barack Obama's Hawaii beachfront compound. Obama was pictured speaking to builders and architects from a local island-based building firm. Former president did not look happy in photos snapped of him. Obama could be seen with his arms folded and making pointed gestures before turning around and walking inside. His close friend and confidant, Marty Nesbitt purchased the property for $8.7 million in 2015, previously the site of Magnum PI Tom Selleck. In 2020, it was revealed how the buyer of the 3-acre plot of land used a planning loophole to preserve a century-old seawall on the beachfront, much to the annoyance of the neighbors and environmentalists. Experts say that the seawall contributes to beach erosion and can damage the coastal environment. But he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Okay, finally, I want to get to this. I want to end with this because this is what America is. This is on CNN. Watch.
Have long argued that what fueled their passions against Trump was a sense of righteous indignation. They were standing up for justice. They were upholding morality that they said Trump was an affront to. And now what we all realize is that that was all a facade. We just had, not more than a week ago, very serious allegations against this very same guy who's now the defender of women. So to me, it seems like maybe a defender of women for my Democratic friends when it's convenient for them. It doesn't necessarily matter the 10-plus years of arguments we've made about morals and ethics against Trump, and Republicans who've empowered Trump, because we can win a seat. To me, any argument that Democrats have framed against Trump, against Republicans, is now null and void. They have revealed themselves to be nothing but hypocrites, nothing but liars. And I think as we get into the general election, you're going to see the case made by Susan Collins, made by the NRSC, that Democrats are not the people that they said that they are.
Yeah, that's a very strong possibility. But isn't it interesting that when this keeps going on like this, and you have a black man standing there, sitting there, making these points. And by the way, he was talking about Graham Plattner, who abuses women, and they're supporting the hell out of him while they were trying to destroy Trump. It's convenience. That's all it is. That's not what America is. America is what you and I are proud of. America is great, and America is lucky to be 250 years into this experiment, to see us succeed, even when people work so hard to cause us to fail. When we get taxes raised on us and we hang in there and then vote somebody else in that fixes the problem. But we have to make 26 and 28 work. We cannot let these people back in. Not with this group that's in there now. And we cannot let them get elected. The ones that we can control can't get them elected in 26. This is America, and I am proud to be an American. And I hope you are too. I will see you Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Have an awesome weekend. We don't get to have fireworks here. Nobody gets to have fireworks because of fire. But if you live in a place where there's fireworks, enjoy those, celebrate, have your brats, have your beer, have your whatever you have for 4th of July holiday, and have a good weekend. Until Monday, rock on, man.
Thanks for your support. Join the Framers View Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for your support.